Abraham's story is one of faith, obedience, and trust in God's promises. He wasn't perfect. He had doubts, fears, and failures. But through it all, God remained faithful. Abraham, originally named Abram, lived in Ur, a thriving city in Mesopotamia. He was married to Sarah, but they had no children. Then, one day, everything changed. God spoke to him, "Leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others." Without questioning, at 75 years old, Abraham obeyed. He left behind his home, his security, and everything familiar, traveling with Sarah, his nephew Lot, and their servants and livestock toward Canaan. But when they arrived in Canaan, a famine struck, forcing them to seek refuge in Egypt. Fear took hold of Abraham. He was afraid that Pharaoh would kill him because of Sarah's beauty, so he told her to say she was his sister. Pharaoh took Sarah into his palace, but soon after, God sent plagues upon Pharaoh's household. Realizing the truth, Pharaoh confronted Abraham and sent them away. Back in Canaan, both Abraham and Lot had so many flocks and herds that the land could not support them both. Conflict broke out between their herdsmen. Instead of fighting, Abraham let Lot choose where to settle. Lot chose the fertile plains of the Jordan Valley near Sodom, while Abraham remained in Canaan. After Lot left, God reaffirmed his promise. "Look as far as you can see in every direction. I am giving all this land to you and your descendants forever." Shortly after, war broke out among the kings of the region. Lot and his family were taken captive. When Abraham heard this, he gathered 318 trained men and pursued the enemy. With God's help, he defeated the kings, rescued Lot, and reclaimed all their possessions. After the victory, Abraham met Melchizedek, the king of Salem and a priest of God Most High, who blessed him. In response, Abraham gave him a tenth of everything he had, an act that foreshadowed tithing. Years passed, and Sarah remained childless. Abraham wondered how God's promise could come true without an heir. One night, God took him outside and said, "Look up at the stars. If you can count them, that's how numerous your descendants will be." Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness. But as more years passed, Sarah's impatience grew. She suggested that Abraham have a child with her servant, Hagar. Abraham agreed, and Hagar bore a son, Ishmael. But this was not the child God had promised. At 99 years old, Abraham encountered God again. God changed Abram's name to Abraham, meaning father of many nations, and Sarai's name to Sarah. He made a covenant with Abraham, commanding him to circumcise every male in his household as a sign of the promise. Then God said, "Next year, Sarah will give birth to a son." Sarah, overhearing this, laughed. After all, she was 90 years old. But God responded, "Is anything too hard for the Lord?" Meanwhile, God revealed that he was about to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because of their great wickedness. Abraham boldly interceded, asking, "Will you really destroy the righteous with the wicked?" He pleaded for the city, asking if God would spare it for the sake of 50, then 40, then 30, down to 10 righteous people. But there were not even 10 righteous people in Sodom. Lot and his family were the only ones spared before fire and sulfur rained down, destroying the cities. As promised, Sarah gave birth to Isaac in her old age. The name Isaac means laughter, a reminder of Sarah's disbelief and the joy God brought to her. But soon after, tension arose. Sarah saw Ishmael mocking Isaac and told Abraham to send him and Hagar away. Though difficult, God assured Abraham that Ishmael would also become a great nation. Then came Abraham's ultimate test. God commanded him to sacrifice Isaac as a burnt offering. Though heartbroken, Abraham obeyed. He and Isaac traveled to Mount Moriah, where Isaac asked, "Father, where is the lamb for the sacrifice?" Abraham replied, "God will provide." As Abraham raised the knife, an angel called out, "Do not lay a hand on the boy. Now I know that you truly fear God." Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught in a bush, provided as the sacrifice. This moment foreshadowed God's ultimate provision, Jesus Christ, the Lamb of God. Years later, Sarah passed away at 127 years old. Abraham bought the cave of Machpelah as her burial site, the first land he legally owned in Canaan. As Abraham aged, he arranged for his servant to find a wife for Isaac. The servant prayed for a sign, and God led him to Rebekah, who became Isaac's wife. Abraham lived to see his family grow. He later married Keturah and had more children, but Isaac remained the child of the promise. At 175 years old, Abraham passed away, and Isaac and Ishmael buried him next to Sarah. His legacy of faith endured, and through his lineage came the nation of Israel, and ultimately Jesus Christ. Abraham's life teaches us that faith requires obedience, patience, and trust in God's timing. He wasn't perfect, but God remained faithful. His story is a reminder that when God makes a promise, He will fulfill it. If this story inspired you, like, subscribe, and share. What part of Abraham's journey speaks to you the most? Let us know in the comments.